Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, where did your interest in tech start?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I've been always interested in tech subjects, starting from school, and I really enjoyed math. And I did advanced math in like for A levels, but I guess, and I wanted to study economics and tech subjects. But when I was entering the uni, the competition was so high that I was afraid that I wouldn't get in. So I chose the safe subject, which was sociology and social work. And I kind of regretted it because I got really good scores for the exams and I could have studied anything I wanted, but if I knew that beforehand. But maybe it meant to be because I really enjoyed what I studied. And I really enjoyed psychology and counseling and what I did. But I think it had a mark on me that you can only do tech subjects if you studied computer science or anything technical. It never occurred that I can actually retrain. So I
That's
had this in my mind because both my parents and my grandparents, they've been in their job all their life. So that's how I grew up. So you get education and then you stay in your profession for the rest of your life.
Sorry, could I just ask you a quick question? So,
Yeah.
in other episodes, Kim and I have talked to people about what kind of tech education they had at school. So, did you do your A levels and GCSEs in the UK?
No, I did them in Ukraine.
And in Ukraine, did you have IT classes in school? Did you have to? So, when I was a kid, we had like an hour in the computer room a week per class. So, it wasn't a lot, but it was kind of
I
there.
actually did. I had, which was rare for my school. Not every school had that, but we had computer science class. I think Scala, or I can't remember, or the very I can't or Visual Basic, and I did linear algebra. So
Wow.
I had quite technical, but still, I think because the competition is so high, and I think most children were like from math schools, from specialized schools, so I didn't even consider myself good enough to study technical subject because you're always looking that everyone else is much better and much stronger.
Well, that's really
Um,
interesting. Okay, so you get to university, you do social work, which also does sound very interesting, by the way. And at what point did you decide it wasn't for you?
I think when I moved to Britain, for so we moved here for my husband's job, and my first job was in the secure unit with young offenders, and I was only 20 then.
Wow.
And I remember that the job was so stressful. I think few times I had like a proper meltdown, like, crying when you can't stop because of the overwhelming uh, situation. The kids coming from disadvantaged families, and most of them are emotionally unstable, and they obviously put it on you. And I'm the person would take it all in, and I was very young. So at some point, my husband said, "You know what? You have to quit. You just can't carry on." And also in England, it's hard to be social worker. I had to redo my degree because it's profession that recognized by the government. So they didn't recognize my degree. I had to start from scratch, and I also knew that emotionally it's very difficult. So I decided not to pursue career in social work. Or psychology was the same. I had to redo my degree completely. Um, but then, so I was thinking, what could I do? So I did masters in international business, hoping that I will just get into the companies and just work, do graduate program or something like this. But then kids came along, and that changed my life forever. So one child then another, and also for my husband job, we traveled a lot. So, and I was so fully focused on the children that I couldn't think of a job or like doing like proper full time. I tried to find some part time jobs, but it just didn't really work. So I just waited, and then at some point I said no. I had enough of being a mom, like meaning full time mom that you fully focused on just children, nothing else. And I was starting rethinking my options. So for me, it was a very squiggly, long way to actually understand what I want to do now. So I was like in the middle of my life. I didn't want to do what I did in the past, but I didn't know what I want to do next. So there were a few series of events. So one of them was at that time we were in Berlin, and I did like a course for moms who want to go back into the workplace, and we did a lot of like mind mapping, where you want to see yourself in 5 years, and all this kind of stuff that really really helped. And to be honest, I was still looking into the social workspace, maybe NGOs, this kind of stuff. And I started working for an organization like this. And by pure accident, or I don't know, it was probably coming from from above. By that organization, they sent me to the workshop to help for their clients to retrain into the tech. And I was sitting in that workshop, and it's like, if they can do it, I can do it as well. And I went to them and said, like, you know what? I'm thinking what I can do. Maybe I can do a course with you as well. Although I was not a target group. The target group was refugees from Syria. And they said, yes, we help anyone who would find it beneficial for their next step in their career. And it's like, okay, so I did all the tests, I signed up for it, and I did so my first ever coding course was in Python data analysis. And from there, it's just, it just planted the seed. I didn't start it straight away. It was in 2017, 2 years before I started the code bar. So because then we got back to the UK, and there was no coding classes near me, so I had to find one that I could access. And I also needed to find childcare because I couldn't just disappear in the day. So I arranged a pair. So there were lots of things I had to do to actually start coding. And so I would go over the weekend. There was also a group in Milton Keynes, Code Girls or something. So I was looking for everything I could find to to get me on track. It wasn't easy, but I think once you understand that's what you want to do, I think the barriers, you will remove all the barriers.
That's really interesting you say that, because I hear people say is actually deciding what you want to do is hard. Once you know what you want to do, it's fairly straightforward to figure out how to get there. That's really
Yes, yeah,
interesting.
I think so. Yeah,
And it
I
sounds
agree.
like obviously you've moved around a lot.
Yes.
So eventually you ended up in Nottingham.
And we no, we always were in Nottingham, but because my husband is a scientist, and he, like, when kids were little, it was easier to travel. So if there would be an opportunity to go on sabbatical somewhere, we would just go as a family.
That's so cool.
Um, Whether now we are much more restricted,
Yeah.
and now there is my career, so we need to take into account.
But there are so many parts to your journey that I'm so excited to dive into. And one of the things you mentioned, which I really like, is this idea of a squiggly career, because I think it's so important to show off that actually there isn't just one route. Careers often aren't just one line, and it's a term that I actually really really like, because I think particularly then when you're entering the tech career, you have all this experience from so many other different areas of life that you can bring to tech. So this is a really long question, long way of getting to the question, but you were doing all these things before. Was there anything from any of those that you thought these are really great transferable skills?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all my skills from the past, they're so useful. And in tech, so this is one of the myths. Yeah, you think in stereotypical tech person, coder sitting in their hoodie in the dark room coding, but it's probably 10% of your time. The rest of your time, you need to communicate with people. You need to find compromises. You need to be able to juggle so many things, work in a team, and all of this comes from my past experience. Um, so it's super useful, and I think sometimes people as a developer, you need to work on your soft skills. That's one of the goals, and that's something that I don't need to work on. I have an abundance of it, and I can share with other people. Whether I need coding skills, obviously I would always, because I started later, so I would always be a bit behind of people kind of my age. But at least I don't have to focus on that, and that side is kind of sorted. So definitely skill. Even my motherhood skills. There was a period where felt like I'm behind, that I wasted my kind of years, and that this is not something useful for the career, which now I think it's just the opposite. I'm so glad I have that experience, because that makes me who I am, that makes me whole. It gives me so much confidence and empowerment.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like my baggage. That's what makes me.
I'm just nodding along loads because I can just in my head, mothers are people that juggle lots of things. You know, you have all these spinning plates, you know, in your head. You're thinking of this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And then I just can see, you know, people who are mums in teams being so good as well at juggling these things, and, you know, being such good team members. And like you said, I totally agree that I think there are so many transferable skills. And I'm also really interested in, you know, the sociology part and data, because, you know, your role is now data and you've studied
Yes.
sociology. To me, that links so closely as well.
Yes, yeah, that's very connected. Yes, like I studied statistics and analysis and research, and all of this is applicable now. So definitely not wasted.
And do you think that's why you ended up going into data instead of, say, front end?
I think so. Yeah, definitely influenced. I've realized quite quickly that front end is not for me. And kind of design beautiful side of things. I've always been technical, you know. At school, math was my favorite subject because it was very straightforward. This is a task, this is answer, you just quickly do it, done. Whether all other subjects were, you know, a bit like wishy-washy, it's not clear what you need to do. And I think that's the same. I think with the data, it's clear. There is a task, you solve it. Whether with the front end, you need more like creativity and like slightly different set of skills. What that wasn't me 100%.
Yeah. It's definitely the nice thing about data, exactly like you said, like there is one clear resolution, whereas with front end, you know, you have to factor in all these devices, you know, like screen widths, you know,
Tweaking
iOS.
it, yeah.
Yeah. You know, iOS versions, like it's such a pain. And I'm really interested as well to dig into your role as, you know, a data engineer, because actually, you know, we've spoken to one other data engineer so far in this podcast, and I know it's something that particularly people coming into codebar, they know, oh, okay, like I really like data, but they don't necessarily understand fully what a data engineer does. So can you talk me through what exactly it is that you do in your role?
As a data engineer, the most important thing to understand that all you're gonna do is shift the data around. So you get the data is ingested by the customers, you process it, put it somewhere, then you do the transformation, you do something with it, whatever business requires you to do with it, and then you move it again. And that's basically what you do as a data engineer. You set up the infrastructure and all the rules that's required to shift it from one place to another at the right time, with the right rules or transformation that need to be done, and then you put them in a different place. Also, as a data engineer, you will look after the customer data, for example. So if you have a big database with the customer, so you make sure the data is in a good shape, or kind of look after it. So if the data needs to be deleted, you know how to do it, and you need to make sure the data is safe and is in a good shape. And if the customer wants you to delete the data, you delete it. If there is a request from the customer to get that data, you know where to find it. And normally we have the history of all transactions or whatever customer is doing on the account. So it's all stored somewhere. And as a data engineer, you know where to find it. And sometimes we get requests from other teams in the business to get this data out, and when they need to do request or something with it. Or we can also prepare the data for data scientists, for example, to do whatever they're doing. So it needs to be in a very good shape. Or data analysts. So they also get the data to do whatever they need to do, analysis. So we, as a data engineer, you get the raw data, you transform it, and then you move it around to where it needs to go. But basically, it's just moving from A to B.
I like that. I like that answer. Get the data, transform it, and then give it to someone else.
Yes, yeah.
I do like that answer. So when you were entering tech, like you say, you found this course in Berlin. You then were studying this Python course. Was then data always something you wanted to go into when you then started thinking about tech more, or did you find it like a few months down the line?
I think at that time, I didn't really think much. I think the data was the most obvious at that time. But when I came back to England and was started to think what I could do, so I started with the websites, um, and in the code bar classes I did with like starting with the basics, HTML, building basic websites. I think I did all the tutorials on code bar, building kind of starting from scratch, and then I did Makers Bootcamp and their
Yeah.
apprenticeship, and there as well it was software engineering, so building the website, JavaScript, React, and we did a little. So I didn't really touch data that much until after I finished apprenticeship, and I was thinking what I want to do, what I really want to do as a software engineer. And this is when I said, okay, I think I like data, and I want to try get into the data engineering. And since I moved, I have never regretted. So I think it was the right decision.
So you moved to the UK, you then did Makers. What was then your first role in tech?
So my first role in tech was with Compare the Market as a software engineer. So
Yeah.
I did the apprenticeship. Actually, the apprenticeship was advertised at one of the code bar sessions.
Yes, I remember that. Was it
Yeah.
because we did like a few panels with them and we did some CI/CD workshops as well with them, and it was around that time the apprenticeship program was open.
Yes. Yeah. So basically thanks to the code bar, I found my first role.
Yay!
It's amazing. It doesn't. This is the for people who listen on the podcast and who try. Sometimes you think it's just a workshop. Yeah, you may not get something out of it, but you just don't know when the opportunities come your way. You might meet someone who will tell you there is this opportunity, or it's those things you can't plan, but you just, if you want to learn to code, you just try and you go there, and then you see what comes your way. We now have a girl coming to the code bar that has exactly the same mindset, and I'm so happy to have her, because she has this curiosity, that the software engineer needs. So she comes to these classes, she comes to Women in Tech, she goes to other opportunities, because she knows that one day there will be an opportunity coming her way, and she's exploring all of that. And I'm so pleased to see her, because I'm sure she will succeed.
Yeah, and it's so right. You never know when opportunities or people you might meet. And there's been quite a few people on this podcast that have said actually communities and networks, like their network, have actually been the key thing to helping them secure their career in tech. And it's even like me and my partner. I've been with Adam now 11 years and we met at a tech conference. And
Yes, exactly.
I joke with him now, like, imagine if we'd never gone to that tech conference, how different our lives would be. And that was 11 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
So you came back and forward to Nottingham and you found Codebar. What made you think, do you know what I'm going to do? Set up a Codebar chapter?
So I wanted to do it for a very long time, because I guess I want to give back to the community, because it was so beneficial for me, and it was very hard for me to find a class like this, yes, or a place where I could go and code. So everything I could find was miles away from where I live, and I think I made it work, although it was very difficult. But for some people, it might be not as easy. So when there is something local and more accessible, it's more likely that you will go and learn and have those opportunities. So I wanted to have something like this in Nottingham or in East Midlands, because I don't think there is anything around the area. I think the closest, like Birmingham, and I think Peterborough is no longer active. So there are not that many places where you could go. And I remember myself, there are plenty of meetups, but they're all very technical. and I didn't dare to go any of them. I thought like this is for developers who are already long in the profession. So there was very few places where you could go as a complete beginner. So I thought, no, I need to do. But luckily, I had my co-organizer, Laura. She helps me as well, so I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. So it's a lot of commitment, and I'm a mom and full-time job. It would be very difficult. So luckily, I have her, and we are amazing. She helps me, I help her, and together is so much easier to do. So just, I guess, giving back to the community, and I hope people help me along the way, and I also hope that I will help someone to get into the tech, and we need more women.
We do. And in that vein, what would your piece of advice be to someone looking to move into tech?
So if you already decided that that's what you want to do, or even if you're just considering but not sure, still go and explore the options. So, for example, I have requests sometimes for the code bar. Oh, can I? People sometimes think they already need to be prepared or know something, and I try to say, no, you don't. So even if you have no idea, but you want to explore and just talk to people who are in tech, just come to any of the events like Code Bar or any Women in Tech. People are very helpful and happy to share. So just come and see if it's something you want to do. And once you already know you want to do it, just one step at a time. Even if you had a break, like for me, I like after Berlin, I got another child, and I had to. It was like a setback. I had to wait another year to start again. But once that seed is planted, and that's something I want to do, don't worry if it takes you longer than you thought it will be. You will get there eventually, and it's a hard skill to learn, but it's possible. And I think I once said to myself, because I can speak foreign languages, and I was like, if I manage to learn German, I'm surely I can manage to learn a coding language, and I think that helped me. It hasn't been like something a degree that I need to do. It's like a skill that you can learn, and with all the help we have now, with all the free classes and like Code Bar, and there is a lot of help out there and people who are willing to help you. So just embrace all those opportunities and come and ask for help. Don't be there on your own, because you need this inspiration. You need that someone who will help you, be it guide you, put you on the way, help you like select the project or give you tips what you could do.
I love
I
what
don't know
you
if it
said.
answers your question.
Yeah, it did. And I love what you said there about, human language and computer language, because, they are languages, right? You speak multiple human languages and then you are learning computer languages, and they are the same. The ideas behind them are the same. They're just,
Maybe it helped me that my first language was Python, and
yeah.
it's quite descriptive. So it just tells you what to do. So if I would start with something like C++, I would probably have give up very quickly. But Python is quite a descriptive language, and it's quite clear what it does. So you can very quickly make it do what you want to do, which is nice for a beginner.
If someone's listening to this and they're thinking of learning Python, are there any resources out there that you think are so good for, getting started, having never looked at Python before? Yeah, what good resources are there?
I think on the code bar, you have really good, I think you updated it recently, and for Python, there are really good tips. Like, for example, learn the Python hard way. That's the course I used years ago. And it's you have to pay, but it's not very expensive, and it's really good. It starts from the beginning, and you have to. So make sure you do the course that are like hands-on. That in this learn Python the hard way, that the author says you need to type with your own fingers. Don't do copy paste. So make sure you do every single thing and you understand what it does. And now we have ChatGPT for help. So use ChatGPT as your tutor. If anything you don't understand, or just ask it, it will give you very, very good explanation. And just another good advice is like some tutorials, make sure you don't just copy paste and just do without understanding. So break it or do your own, change it. So you need to understand how the code works inside out to have a good understanding. So it's not about shiny portfolio or project you do. It's about you understanding the basics and what the function or your code does. So if even if it's not a perfect project, but you know what it does and you can break it, fix it, and so on, that's much better understanding than a shiny app that you have no idea how it works, or you because you copied all the way through the tutorial. If someone will ask you why it's here this or why it's that, and you won't be able to explain, then it's of a little help for you when you go through the interviews, because that's exactly what they will ask you.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice. And now I'm really interested because you're now, a few years into your career. And, at Codebar, we are quite guilty of, focusing so much on getting people into their career that then often what happens is people spend so long trying to get to the career, they then get it and then they go, oh, now what? So, once you then got your first job, as at Compare the Market, but you still are at Compare the Market, how are you finding, the tech world now that you're a few years in?
I think it's the same in the way that it's always changing. So
Yeah,
I'm still a Compare the Market because I'm not on the same team doing the same project. That's changed
yeah.
like 10 times now. And I've changed departments, I changed my role. And even now I'm no longer in data engineer, I'm in a Gen AI lab where we work on the AI, so on AI solutions. So it's always changing, evolving world. What I like about tech, that is, it's never the same, and you would always feel like challenged, and that you need to learn new skills. Although I'm 5 years into my career, I still feel like in the beginner, for example, in the AI space, and there will always be something you need to learn. So it's an important thing to understand that in software engineering, yeah, you will have your experience and everything, but there will always be still a huge area that you don't know and that you need to learn, and you should not be afraid of that. That's just normal. That's just part of the job.
Yeah, it's funny. I was speaking to one of the students the other day online, and they were saying, "Oh, there's just so much to learn. How am I going to find the time?" And I was like, "You are not going to know everything, so please don't even try." Because also you could spend, months, weeks learning something, and then it also changes. It's the best thing about tech because, like you said, you're always learning, but that's also why it's also hard because you are also always learning. So, you have to enjoy learning, particularly, if you want a career in tech. So looking at, the future, this isn't where do you want to be in 5 years' time, but I am really interested to know, like, do you have any goals in tech that you want to reach? Is there something that you're particularly excited about?
I think the future is very exciting because I want to specialize in AI, machine learning, data science, and I'm starting actually apprenticeship, level 7 apprenticeship in AI and data
Nice.
science. Yes, on Thursday is my first kickoff session, and I'm so excited about it. I think the last time I was so excited when I was at the uni. So I have that, like eagerness to learn and like deep dive. So I'm already doing this in my new role, but I want to get like the foundation sorted. And I think in data science, AI, it's very important to get this foundation, like through the degree or education. So I'm glad I have this opportunity now to do this apprenticeship that's supported by my company, which I'm very grateful for. So I think that's where I see myself in 5 years. So I want to do this degree and specialize in either machine learning or data science. We'll see what the opportunities will, and that's the future. I think AI is around us. And it's nowhere to go. It's already been there, but now it's just it's just there. Uh, so I
Yeah, we
just
need
hope.
to embrace it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
So is this an internal apprenticeship that's happening inside Compare the Market, or are they allowing you to go out to an external one?
I think it's an external, so it's
Okay.
It's Cambridge Spark apprenticeship, but
Okay.
it's supported by a competitor market. So
Ah,
I guess it goes in collaboration. I
yeah.
think just the same as was Makers, but
Okay.
just with a different provider.
That's cool. It's cool that they're allowing you to do that. You know, it's not often companies will allow you to like move a lot internally, or go, oh, actually, do you know what, I want to kind of pivot into like looking at AI a lot more, and then allow you to do this apprenticeship. So it's really cool that they're allowing you to do that. And and I guess it's also a testament to why you're still there, because like you said, you haven't just done the same thing for 5 years. You've actually been changing and doing lots. I guess it probably, and again, does it feel like it's been like a few different companies, or does it feel like you've always been at the same company?
No, it's still the same company, but actually moving from product teams to the data engineer was super helpful because I normally when you're in one area, you only know how your area works. You don't. So, for example, we had no idea we knew there is some data engineering team, and the data just goes somewhere, and what happens to it, no one knows. But now I know exactly, and as a data engineer, I know where it's coming from. And also moving around the business, I know lots of people. So if I need anything, I know who I can go to, and I have this end-to-end process, and it's so useful to have that understanding. And recently I went to we had customer week, and we could go to the customer ops and see how people work on the live chat or dealing with complaints. And that was super useful as well, just to see, for example, where the requests come, because sometimes data engineer, we get a request for this customer, you need to check this data. And we just fulfill the request, yeah. But then when you see why people asking it and where it comes from, it's really helps to see end to end the whole process. So I really enjoyed being in different areas, because that gave me this understanding how the whole business works. And I think it's important when you do your job to have that understanding, not just your little bit that you're working on, but to have a more holistic picture.
Yeah, totally. It just encourages collaboration and also understanding between teams, because rather than just like you said going, oh, here's this ticket, can you do this thing? It's like, well, now you've seen how that team operates and you've seen the requests come in. You just understand it more, which yeah, I really I'm such an advocate for like collaboration. I've worked in teams where as a developer you're quite alone and you're like a sole person, and I don't think that's productive at
And
all,
I
because you
think
just
this
don't
is
have understanding.
yeah, this is probably where my previous transferable skills come in, because
Yeah,
as a social worker, you always work on a team. You're never on your own, because when you look after a client, it's a team approach. Yeah, everyone is doing their bit, but you normally have a team to look after someone. So I've always worked in that, never solely. But in tech, it's the same. You're not on your own. You can't do anything on your own. It's always a team effort, and only as a team, and on a bigger scale as a company as well. You have one goal as a company, and only if all the teams contribute and collaborate, you can be successful. So
yeah. Oh, I feel like I could keep talking to you forever, but I'm aware that time is running out. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this chat. Before we let you go, how can people connect with you online?
I guess LinkedIn. So if you on LinkedIn check Lena Krasnova, I guess you'll find me. Or maybe we also have Codebar Nottingham page. So if you find us on Codebar Nottingham and follow us, we like followers, and spread the word about our chapter, because we want to help more people. If you know someone who might be interested, please do.
Well, like I said, I could keep talking to you forever, but we can't. So this has been such a good chat, and I've loved diving deep into your journey. And I said it earlier, but I love the squiggly path. I think it's so valuable to what you're doing now, and it's a huge testament to why you're so good at what you do today. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast and sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it as well.
Yes, thank you. It's been a real pleasure having you.